Welcome back to JCAT's online learning series. Today we're going to tackle the ventilator. This ventilator has been a tremendous benefit to us here at JCAT. And although we sometimes get frustrated with it, it's a major tool in our toolbox. So here we have our Zoll AEV vent and the supplies that come with it. We've got a test lung, a BiPAP mask, some forceps, oxygen tubing, vent tubing, our vent filter, and our different various our cheat sheets. So we have our weight-based guide there and also our vent cheat sheets. Today we're going to be tackling AC pressure mode. So we're going to be looking at our vent in pressure mode the entire time, from startup to getting it applied to dealing with some basic challenges. So you're going to see me here. I'm going to turn on our vent with the power switch. Power switch is in that bottom right corner as you're looking at it. The vent takes a second to boot up, but it shows you as it boots up. The first question, and this is where we sometimes get tripped up, is what kind of patient are we in? Are we in adult, pediatric, or custom? We're going to select adult mode for this patient. Green check mark. It typically starts off in AC volume depending on how the vent is set up. So if you press the button next to AC a second time, it allows you to switch from volume to pressure mode. We're now in ACP, and we have a patient disconnect. I suggest setting up your vent settings prior to connecting tubing. It allows you to work without the vent alarming constantly. So if you set up your original vent settings prior to connecting your tubing, you're allowed to enable to do a lot without the ventilator actually alarming. So here we set up our blue tubing first, get it connected. I'm disconnecting the oxygen tubing cap now so that we can connect that next. The clear goes to clear, and the green tint goes to the copper on the top. If you switch these, it will not ventilate the patient effectively. You have to make sure you have these set up correctly. If you're colorblind, you might want to get somebody to check you, because this can be challenging for some patients. Here we're going to set up our oxygen tubing. Obviously, we'd have this hooked up to an oxygen bottle. For this demonstration, I do not. At this point, our ventilator should turn green. We're currently at 21% oxygen. The first step I take on any sick patient is I dial up the FiO2 to 100%, which I'm going to do here on the vent. This is our first step. FiO2, let's max it out. Let's take that out of the equation. There are four things in any of these equations we're going to be looking at. We're going to be looking at FiO2, we're going to be looking at PEEP, we're going to be looking at PIP, and respiratory rate. So the next thing is we need to set our PIP and our PEEP. Our PIP on these patients in pressure mode, we should start off around 15. 15 over 5 is a good starting point, and it's the same thing we use for BiPAP. It's 15 over 5. It's easy to remember. We start at 15 over 5. So I'm going in and dialing in that 15 over 5. I brought our oxygen back down to 21% just to keep the alarms from alarming. But my PIP is 15, my PEEP is 5. What I'm showing you here is our minute volume. It shows up in the bottom left corner of the screen. Our minute volume right now is extremely low, and we need to adjust it. Part of the problem is we have not yet adjusted our respiratory rate. Our respiratory rate for a healthy patient should be 17. If they're unhealthy, i.e. acidotic, it should be 20. Here I adjust the respiratory rate up to 17, and remember, a green check mark. We're going to wait a minute and watch that Vmin in the bottom corner. That's our minute volume. We're going to see how it adjusts and see where we're at. So we're going to wait for that Vmin to come up, and we're going to assess our patient. So as it comes up, we'll notice whether or not we're too high or too low. If we're too high, we need to adjust our PIP down. If we're too low, we need to adjust our PIP up. We can also adjust our trigger level. This is what I'm showing you here. It's a hard press to get to that menu, and then we can adjust it down closer to 0. It makes it more sensitive. On BiPAP, you have to make it more sensitive, not less. We're showing you our goal minute volume. We're on the male side. We're going to come down, find that correct height, and find that goal minute volume. We're going to compare that to our Vmin and see where we're at. If our Vmin is not where it needs to be, we need to adjust our PIP appropriately. So here, we're going to adjust our PIP a little bit in green check mark. If our oxygen's low and we're at 100% FiO2, we probably need to adjust our PEEP. So if we adjust our PEEP up, what do we have to do? Well, that's right. We have to also adjust our PIP. Anytime we increase our PEEP, we have to adjust our PIP because that's the container I always draw on the board. If we bring the bottom of the container up and we don't raise the top of the container, we've done no good. So here I've increased the bottom, but not the top. What happens to our V-min? It starts to fall. I know that's kind of hard to see, but the V-min is decreasing. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to adjust my PIP back up, get us a little bit more room in the container. We increased the bottom of the container that we're just holding air in, we got to increase the top as well. This is going to help get our V-min where we want it. We've adjusted trigger settings, we've adjusted our PIP and our PEEP. Remind you, the alarms can get in our way. Sometimes we have to adjust those alarms out of the way so that we have enough room to do our job. If the alarm setting is what's getting in your way on the PIP, move it up to 35 and get it completely out of the way. We do not need the alarm setting to be lower than 35, and if I could custom make that, I would. I'd set it for 35 all the time so that you guys wouldn't have a worry. We're not worried about alarming if we're not anywhere near 35. We're also going to want to take this patient and we're going to watch their end tidal. We're going to watch their SpO2. Remember, if the end tidal is moving in the wrong direction, we have a ventilation problem. We either have too little tidal volume or too little respiratory rate, or if we're going way too low, too high. So I watch that carefully. I try not to mess with more than one of these though. So if our respiratory rate is locked in at what it should be, 17 for regular patients, 20 for acidotic patients, I typically only mess with that PIP to affect tidal volume. Increasing the PIP will increase your tidal volume. Decreasing the PIP will decrease your tidal volume. If we have an oxygenation problem, let's say our end tidal is moving in the right direction. If it's moving in the right direction, closer to 35 to 45, not necessarily jumping there right away, but moving in that direction, we need to look at our oxygenation. Is our FiO2 at 100? If it's at 100, guess what? We're doing the right thing on that side. Now we have to look at PEEP. Are we holding our alveoli open appropriately? We may need to adjust that PEEP up like we talked about. Trigger sensitivity. We should mess with that anytime we look at the patient's mask. If it's fogging and the patient is not getting a breath, let's say they are taking some breaths on their own, A, we need to resedate them if we're in intubated mode. B, if we're in a BiPAP mode, which we're going to talk more about later, we need to make sure they're getting a breath, which means we need to adjust their trigger sensitivity. If we're giving them way too many breaths and it's out of control, we need to sedate our patient. And if we're still doing that, we need to decrease our sensitivity, which means taking it farther away from 0. Remember, that's a negative number, so that can be kind of confusing. This ventilator is easy to operate once you get used to it. Yes, it does take some adjustments and some learning, but each one of us is capable as medics here at JCAT. As EMT partners, we need to know how to set this vent up, how to get it hooked to oxygen, and quite honestly, how to put in some of the starting settings. If we can put in our starting settings and have this ventilator hooked up appropriately, we can set up our medics for success. As always, I'm here if you have questions, comments, concerns, thoughts. I'd love to answer any of those. We're going to put this out on EMS1 like we do everything. And this is just the first part in a 3-part series. This is the pressure mode portion. We'll be happy to cover BiPAP and volume mode at a later date. If you have any questions, contact me anytime. Thank you.